The oldest and strongest human emotion is fear, and the oldest and strongest type of fear is trepidation of the unknown. When we were children, our parents told us that monsters didn't exist, but we were sure that something was lurking under the bed or in the closet. Fear sees, even if our eyes are closed. Welcome to the realm of the arcane. My name is Lon Strickler. Join me as I examine unexplained creatures, strange manifestations, and remarkable realities. Imagine this next hour as a voyage of discovery to strange lands, seeking not for new territory, but for new knowledge of the supernatural. Come on board as we begin this adventure together. Hey folks, good evening and welcome to another episode of Arcane Radio, where we explore the unexplained live on Beyond Explanation. I'm your host, Lon Strickler, coming to you within a cannon shot of historic Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining me. So, once again, Arcane Radio and Beyond Explanation is made possible by you liking, subscribing, and sharing our programming. Super chat donations are essential for us to continue offering our unique content, and your consideration is very much needed and appreciated. So tonight, I welcome my friend and colleague, spiritual deliverance minister and author Bill Bean to Arcane Radio. Now, Bill is known as a spiritual warrior and has performed hundreds of exorcisms and spiritual deliverances worldwide, addressing anything from curses, blocks, attachments, obsession, oppression to possession by demonic spirits. He's also a life coach and providing guidance and advice on how to be strong in mind, body, and spirit. With great sensitivity and understanding, Bill helps his clients to find solutions to a wide array of life's challenges. He works with each of his clients to help them build on their strengths to identify and achieve life goals. His most recent book is titled Stranger Than Fiction 2: True Supernatural Encounters of a Spiritual Warrior. And Bill's website can be found at BillJBean.com. So my friend Bill, thanks for joining me this evening.
Oh, it's great. Thank you, Brother Lon. It's always great and a pleasure to be on with you, and great to be back. And I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about as usual.
So for those folks who don't know much about Bill Bean, which I find hard to believe, but anyway, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, it's a long story, but it is the condensed version is that I was very much a victim in my life in childhood, growing up in a house that I described straight out of the pits of hell. But, I've written 8 books, Lon, and in the first book, Dark Force, I write about what took place in that house. And the house was located in Glen Burnie, Maryland, in a community called Herondale. And it was a 3-bedroom ranch-style home located at the bottom of a downhill cul-de-sac. It had a very long and deep ravine behind it. I was 4 years old when we moved in there. My first recollection, just remembering standing there in front of the house. And I was afraid. My sister was 13. My brother was 1. My sister was standing there with me, and we just had this horrible feeling that the house was very ominous and foreboding. It was semi-dilapidated. My father, William Bean Sr., was a master carpenter, and he saw this as a restoration project, which he did quite a bit of work to it in making it look nice. My mother, Patricia Bean, was a homemaker, and she had an interesting story that I wasn't aware of until after I had written the first book, Dark Force. I have very little family left. Most of my family has passed on, and some, including my parents and others, died under horrific and very mysterious circumstances. And I do believe that the demonic forces that had my family under siege greatly contributed to some of those deaths. And My mom was the first to have an experience in the home, and it was shortly after moving in, and it took place in the living room while she was unpacking and organizing. My dad had taken us with him for the day to go to my grandparents' house, his parents, to allow my mother to have what he thought would be peace without us being under her feet while she was unpacking and organizing. And it was during the course of this that she felt a presence come into the room, and she thought that it was my dad sneaking back in to play a joke on her. And she spun around, fully anticipating on seeing him. And to her shock, nothing was there. So she was quite unnerved by it, as you can imagine. Eventually able to go back, collect herself, go back to doing what she was doing. And then one of the bedroom doors slammed shut, my sister's bedroom door, which was the last bedroom down the hallway on the left. And that was enough to make her go outside and wait until we returned. So it started there, and then it gradually escalated into more of these types of supernatural events, and eventually escalated into violent physical attacks on us from these demonic entities, and it greatly contributed to the destruction of my family. So that's where it started, Lon. I was very much a victim, and boy, it was a tough road to travel for a long, long time. But I find in life, and it makes perfect sense to me now, because it couldn't be where I'm at right now and helping people had I not been there to suffer, had I not been there to experience those things. It's all part of the journey. We all have a journey. And in my case, it was necessary for me to be there and have those types of experiences so I could be here now and helping others to move forward in their lives.
Do you think those experiences prepared you for what you do now, or do you think it was just an extension to why you became a deliverance minister? I mean, do you think that is the actual influence, or?
Yeah, I think that I was supposed to have that, suffer those things in order to be this deliverance minister, spiritual warrior for God.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I believe that. And by the way, it's something that I had no intention of doing. No way did I ever want to get back, after being finally free from, years and years and years of evil and torment and abuse. That was the last thing I wanted, was to get back involved in something like that. But God's plan for my life was different, from what my plan was. And I'm very thankful for it, because I'll tell you, Lon, it's the greatest thing in the world to know what your purpose in life is.
You and I have known each other, I don't know how many years now. It's been a while.
Long time.
And, I was very familiar with your story. Actually, I was not living that far from you. I mean, I was just down the road from Glen Burnie. And I think the first time I heard about you was they did the interview on Channel 45. And they, talked about it, and then your story came out. And then you and I eventually met when I started doing radio. But, I've been to the place. I mean, I had been outside the house before you and I even met. And I had a bad feeling there. I mean, it was something about that whole area. You said, like you said, it's a cul-de-sac. There's like a gully in the back of it.
Yeah.
You have taken, in fact, there is one picture that you took of the, in the sky, of this angel formation that you saw above the house.
Yeah, well, it wasn't above that house. That photo was taken over my home in Baltimore County in 2000. Okay. But there were many bizarre photographs taken in and on and around that house over the years, including a photo in 1975 that was taken of my mother inside the house, and she was on the telephone. And there was a large rectangular. Yeah, and there appears to be a very large alien-looking face in the oval mirror there. And then if you look even further, you could see the little gray guy standing beside my mother on her right, and it appears to be about 3 feet tall.
I think Bill's going to try to bring that up. There it is.
That's the hooded entity. Yeah, that's not the one that was in the Herondale house in 75. That one was actually taken at my residence in Baltimore County in the year 2000.
Wow. We got another one. We got another one too. I don't know. He'll find it eventually. But
there's so many of them. Yeah.
Yeah. You've also gathered a lot of UFO photographs over the years as well. The one that fascinates me the most is the long tubular one from, I think, when you were in Reisterstown.
Yeah, that was in 2001 in Reisterstown. I'll never forget that day. There it is. Yeah. And I was in my vehicle, and this was so crazy, Lon. That thing was moving very, very fast, and I caught it at the precise moment. And it's like a 1 in a million photo because it was moving so fast. But yet, I had this ability, and this has been covered in several books by other people, investigators and authors that came to me from one, Alexander Zekas in Virginia from MUFON.
Mm-hmm.
He came to meet with me, and I believe it was, I want to say July 2000, something like that. And beautiful sunny day, very hot. And we were at the BWI observatory lot right near BWI airport.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I pointed to the sky, and it was wide open sky, nothing that you could see with the naked eye. I said, you see that area right there? He says, yeah. I said, there is an object that is cloaked that is sitting right there. And he says, Bill, I don't see anything. It's wide open sky. I said, he had a camera in his hand, I had a camera in mine. I said, let's take our cameras at the same time and take a photograph of that area. He says, okay. We did that, and guess what, Lon? On both his film and mine was a dome-shaped disc UFO sitting right there that you could not visibly see in the sky, yet there it was because I felt it. I knew it was right there, and he couldn't believe it, and he wrote about it in his book, Synchronistic Adventures. And another encounter, two others actually that took place like that. One in Knoxville, Tennessee, with David Weigert. We were traveling in a vehicle. We were headed to an event in Birmingham, Alabama. And same thing, a beautiful sunny day, nothing there. I said, take a picture right there. I said, there's something there. And they're going, you're crazy. There's nothing there. He took the picture, and it was like a silver chromish looking disc object that he captured with the camera right there. And then the third occasion that this happened was in Mentone, Alabama, 2008. And Bob Sigmund was with me. Bob traveled with me, traveling, making appearances, and he would go with me and set up things for me and everything. But anyway, we're there at the event, and he started taking some random photographs of me, and I stopped him. I said, see that area in the sky right there? It was above the trees. And he says, yeah. Now, again, this is another beautiful day. It was cooler that day. I'd say it was probably in the high 60s. And I said, there is something sitting there. He says, you're crazy. I don't see anything. There's nothing there. It's open sky. He says, well, I'll tell you what. You go over there and stand by the trees where you think this thing is. And I did. And he took the photograph, Lon, and sure enough, it was this white object that I could equate as being an angel or something that was in the sky right where I said it was, right above me. And he was astounded. So I don't know how to explain that other than just having an automatic knowing of things. And I thank God for that gift and ability. So I could sense when something divine is present, and I certainly could sense when something evil is present. And that has happened many times in my career, you know, as this spiritual warrior for people. I mean, there are times that I could see it, times that I could sense it, times that God would show me everything before I even walked into the residence.
Yeah, well, I believe it because, quite frankly, that's happened to me on occasion as well. I mean, you know, well, you and I, you know, both you and I do this type of work. I mean, I'm somewhat different what you do, but, you know, it follows the same genre. I mean, you know.
You're still right there in it. And you, as a matter of fact, we were both involved in a case that you involved me in, you know, in Iowa. And so you're very much involved in these types of things and other things as well.
Yeah, and by the way, that Iowa case has pretty well resolved itself, thank God.
Praise God. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I mean, they're getting along a lot better. I'm not hearing much about, now of course they all live in different residences now.
Yeah.
But the one twin had actually had more activity going on in the house that she moved into, but so far that's kind of tamped down recent years.
Oh,
So hopefully it's
so
going to
happy to hear
stop.
that.
I
They're very
believe,
good people.
yeah, I believe that there was a possession from the very beginning, or an attachment from when they lived in Texas and when they moved up there. And it's a long story, but hopefully it'll stay somewhat quiet now. So I'm very
God.
glad
I'm
for that.
so happy to hear that. That's wonderful. God bless them.
Yeah, we've actually been involved with a couple cases together, where we worked separately. But yeah, it's I had talked to oh God, Deanna Simpson when she was on the show, and we talked about your involvement there as well. And that case here in Hanover was just that was an amazing case. I mean, in fact, she did, her and her husband did move, and they moved into another house. I don't know who's living in that house on Maple Street now, but and I don't know if Deanna really knows what anything's happening there or not. But I had told her, and she didn't know this, but I had actually worked 5 other residents within 2 blocks of that house.
Wow. So it's the
very
area.
very similar activity. All malevolent. Maybe not as bad as what she went through. Of course, that basement of hers was just, I was like hell on earth. But so
I recall going down there in the dark, Lon. I went down in the pitch dark, binding and rebuking and casting out, and I could absolutely feel a very strong presence of evil. I also recall being coming into the house. You would make a right. I think there was a room there, a little hallway, and you'd make a right into the room. I don't know if that was Tom's office or whatever.
I think that was his office. That was the one that had the big elk head on there.
Yeah. And I recall going in there, and it was super, super cold in there. And I was binding and rebuking and casting out, and instantly the temperature as I was binding and rebuking and casting out, it felt like it got like 15 degrees warmer in the room after that. And then after going through the entire house, I was standing in the kitchen, and this voice came from the basement, and it was like a sort of like a screaming moan type of thing. And others heard it as well, and it was captured on audio. And that was amazing. So I'll never forget those things about the house.
Well, that basement in particular. Now I don't know where the photo. I had Diana had taken 3 photos of that basement where a portal was just manifesting. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. It was probably one of the best portal photos I've ever seen, or series of photos. And there's definitely something going on down there. So yeah, that's just another example. I talk to folks and tell them how I get involved with cases and how I do it. Why don't you tell folks how you work a case in general? I mean, how you get involved with someone, how they contact you, and what do you do?
Yeah, well, people normally that they either hear about me via word of mouth, or they will see me on one of the paranormal shows. I've probably done 9 episodes of A Haunting, and there'll be another one coming out soon, a recent shoot that I did with A Haunting, and various other shows like Ghost Nation and Holder's Files, and did some stuff for Lifetime Movie Network. So people will see me on there, or they might hear me on Coast to Coast or something like that. So when people hear of me, or someone mentions me, recommends me, then they'll reach out. They'll visit my site, and then they can email me directly from the site, and they'll tell me what their problem is. What's going on. I also have a lot of investigators like yourself that reach out to me too and say, I have this case here, and this is what's going on. So I'm always busy, that's for sure. It never stops. And I'll tell you, Lon, it's amazing when I look back on this, coming from being a victim for a good part of my life, and then having that transformation. I thank God and praise God for it.
Yeah.
And since that time, when I decided to make God first in my life, and then having gone through that transformation and received that calling to go into service for God, I've helped people from all over America and 50 other countries as well. I just can't believe it. It's mind-boggling, and it's all blurred to me because there's so many people that come along. But I love people. I care. And I know what it's like to suffer, so I take it very personally. So I do anything and everything that I can by the power of God working through me to help them.
I think that's why you and I connect so well, because we understand all this stuff. We've been, each of us have experienced things in our lives that are not normal. And, we kind of learned off of that. I got a couple questions coming in, if you don't mind answering them.
Sure.
Do you believe, Vincent asked, do you believe in land curses and generational curses in families?
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
And God has worked through me to broken many of them, off of lands and homes and people as well. So I've said this many times. I think that not only people can be, invaded and possessed by demonic spirits, but places and items as well. It's a vessel. Wherever there's some way to get into something, someone or something, I think these demons will do it.
Yeah, here's another one from Vincent, and it has I have my opinion on this as well, but how do you bind, rebuke, and cast out malevolency? What's your personal method?
Well, for me, and look, I'm not here to preach a sermon or tell anybody what they have to do or whatever. This is just my calling and how
I think we each of us have different ways of doing this.
Yes, and so I don't condemn anybody. I love everybody, but for me, from my calling from God, I use His mighty and holy name. So God, the creator of the universe, His name is Yahweh, mentioned 6,823 times in the Bible, covered up with the title of Lord. So where we see Lord in caps, that should say Yahweh. Jesus, his Hebrew name is Yahshua, which means Yahweh saves. Yahweh saves through him. So I use God's mighty and holy name, Yahweh. And I would say, by the mighty power of Yahweh and his mighty and holy name in Jesus' name, I bind and rebuke any demons that are in, on, or around this person, this land, this home, and pets. I'm very thorough in all of it, and I bind and rebuke it and cast it out and command it to depart at once. And then I ask for God to send his giant warrior angels to come and intercept and take into custody every bit of evil and carry it off and deposit it back into the pits of hell where it belongs.
Well, we both use angels. I mean, that's an important part of what we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes people have a hard time understanding that, but angels are a very important part of what we do.
I agree, Lon. And I've seen this many times and in churches as well, to where a pastor will stand there and they're having, these mass deliverances.
Mm-hmm.
And the pastor's standing there and he's casting demons out of this person. Well, guess what? They jump into somebody else. And the reason they're jumping into somebody else is he's not asking God to bring his angels to take these things into custody. So they're free to just go ahead and jump into somebody else. They're looking for a place to go.
Yeah. Yeah. There are a lot of clergy who pretend to think that they can move these things about, but they just don't really.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything against the clergy and religion, but that's just the way it is. And you understand.
And there have been instances, and this goes back to the Bible as well, the 7 sons of Sheba who went and they were going to cast out all these demons, and the demons just tore them to pieces. And the reason for that, and I've said this many times, and you've heard me say this many times, and you'll hear me say it many more. It is not me. I am nothing special. I am a vessel that God works through to help people. And I thank God and praise God for that. So we can get into trouble if we start thinking that we're something special and we can do this and we can do that. And just like you said there, boy, oh boy, I've heard the stories of the priests and pastors that did certain things, and man, they were attacked and ran out of houses and stuff like that. So
yeah, I've had that myself. I have been to a couple of locations where I would come in there, and there'd be a priest or a pastor already there, or vice versa. And I've seen plenty of them literally run out of the house. I mean,
yeah,
they don't know how to handle it. It's something that just is, it's just against everything they believe, and it just scares them, and they roll out of there.
And once the fear takes over, so for me, I have to stay in what I call warrior mode, which is faith, strength, and courage. I have to stay that way. I cannot show any fear, because if I show fear, it's over. Just like you just said, if I'm showing fear, I'm finished. The people I'm trying to help are finished. It's over. And there's nowhere to go but down from there. So I have to stay in control of the situation. The only way that I can stay in control is by having that level of faith, strength, and courage.
Absolutely. Here's a question from Nancy Malcolm. Now, it's something that I don't know how you and I know how I answer, because I believe evil is evil. But basically, it's, what is your concept of evil and demons?
My concept of evil and demons is something that is not of God, something that is against our will, because God gave us free will. So God is not going to impose his will on us. So if some other force is trying to impose their will, and if it's a demonic force, it's through fear and bully tactics, which is divide and conquer tactics. If any of these types of things are taking place that are fear-based, trauma-based, that is not of God, and that is evil.
We'll get back to questions in a minute. I want you to talk about the book, the new book.
That you're a big part of, and I thank you for being a part of that.
I appreciate that. I'm always glad to help you out. You know that. Stranger in Fiction 2, First-Hand Accounts of the Strange and Unexplained. Tell me a bit about it. Tell us a bit about it, and some of what you put in there, and some other things that have gotten in there as well.
It's an amazing book, and it's an amazing book because I've really have gotten an amazing collection of people, you included, to contribute to the book. And I've heard a lot of great feedback about your content that's in there, and other people that have contributed as well. The reader, I've got so many messages, Lon, from people saying that they couldn't put the book down. Once they pick it up, they just can't put it down. And praise God, that's great. It's 10 chapters. Chapter 1 is a summary of the year 2020. Just
I don't have to say
much about that. Yeah, I mean, and then chapter 2, angels, firsthand accounts from not only myself. I've had many angelic interventions in my life. I've been in many life-threatening situations, and God sent angels to me to save my life many times, and others that contributed also. Chapter 3, demons. We cover, again, not only my experiences, but others that have had these types of demonic experiences. Chapter 4, ghosts and hauntings. I brought Steve and Jen in, and other people, Anita and Chris, to come in and give accounts. And I gave accounts also, but I wanted to bring other voices into this. I could have wrote the book just in my voice based on, I've had a plethora of experiences with all this stuff, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to bring other voices in, so there would be another voice to say, well, look, this is what I experienced as well. So it wasn't going to be just Bill Bean talking about these things. There would be other people and voices with their experiences. Chapter 5, UFOs. Again, I've had a vast background and experiences with UFOs and non-human beings, and brought other people in to talk about their experiences. Chapter 6, Bigfoot. Mike Supa involved in that. Brian Goslin was a police officer in Whitehall, New York, that had a very close encounter with a Bigfoot creature. He said within 30 feet, and very compelling account there. Mothman, and Lon, you contributed to these things, the Bigfoot, the Mothman. You've had your experiences there, so it was great to have your voice in the book. Travis also wrote a great piece in there about his Mothman story. Chapter 8, Crowley and Boleskine. So Kev Baker, he wrote that about Aleister Crowley and his experience going to Boleskine, which resulted in me having to perform a spiritual deliverance over both he and his brother.
Yeah, he really went through an ordeal.
Yes, they were so negatively affected, and his brother was on the edge of suicide from this. So God worked through me to help them, and I'm so thankful for that. Chapter 9, the Mandela effect, this crazy thing that's been going on in the world with names changing and locations changing and historical events changing, just unfathomable biblical scripture changing. It's unfathomable to even consider that something like this could be real, but yet here it is. So it's just a very, very, every chapter is compelling, and I'm not just saying that because it's my book. Right. I'm saying it because it's true. And then chapter 10, the final word, I just summarize everything, the state that we're in America and the world, and how I believe that, and I said in the first Stranger Than Fiction, I said, if an invading force were coming in, and I was making reference to the devil, they would poison the air, they would poison the water, they would poison the food. And that's exactly what's happening with us now. I just saw a story the other day, Lon, 2 days ago. I'll have to send you the video clip. This was from a news station in Houston, Texas. And they had this report come in that a lot of their beaches from Houston to Galveston are contaminated, yet people are still going to the beaches, unknowing that they're swimming in fecal matter. And someone is dumping mass amounts of fecal matter into the waterways, and it is affecting these beach locations to the point to where people are going and they're going to have their day at the beach, and then a couple of days later they're deathly ill because they have either swallowed fecal matter or it's been on them.
It's terrible.
So this is, what we're living in now. I'm sorry to say, we could turn it around if people suddenly just took a second and stopped and said, okay, wait a minute now. We are all created beings by God. We are on planet Earth here. So we're all God's children. Let's do one thing. Let's treat others how we want to be treated. And if people could do that, Lon, the world would change overnight, and we would be able to rid ourselves of all of this evil and craziness that's going on in America and the world, because we would suddenly care about each other, and we would go that extra step to do for one another and work together collectively.
I think a lot of what happened last year hopefully has taught some people some lessons. I don't know yet. I don't really see it yet, but I hope it does. What we went through could have been a hell of a lot worse than what actually happened.
I agree.
And this could have been it could have literally had been for not, a little bit of luck down the road, a humanity reducer. I mean, this could have just,
I agree,
almost to the point of extinction. It just got worse. But, we were lucky. And of course, you and I believe there was intervention somehow down the road.
No question about it. No question about it, because you're exactly right. This could have turned out to be a catastrophe of epic proportion, to where billions of people could have died from this.
Yeah. Let me give you another question, if you don't mind, from Vincent.
Sure.
Do you believe in the hierarchy of angelic and demonic entities?
I sure do. So everything starts with the God of the universe, the creator of the universe, which I believe his name is Yahweh. And so he is the Most High Elohim. So Elohim in Hebrew means gods. So that's why the first commandment, he says, you shall worship no other gods before me, because there's gods under him. And so he is the Most High Elohim. So these other Elohim, in my opinion, assisted him in the creation and also are part of the heavenly host. And then the angelic hierarchy comes in from there. And so the devil, who once held a very high place in heaven as the choir director for God, he was privy to some very private and personal things. And he brought that with him when he was cast out of heaven with a third of the angels. It came down here. So he copies and mimics that everything God does, and he puts a vulgar twist on it. So he too does have a kingdom and a hierarchy, or lowarchy, however you want to think about it. But he very much mimics everything that God does.
I got another question here. Now, this is interesting from Blue Crossroads, and I have encountered this a bit in one case. But have you encountered the Papa Leg entity? It's basically the voodoo entity or the hoodoo entity in any of the cases you've been involved with.
Well, I've been involved in many voodoo cases, and I have not seen any type of entity other than to say like a black shadow type of figure, or even like a black ball type of thing that, I, by the power of God, have cast out. So I haven't seen any type of structured manifestation that I could say may fit the description of what the person asking the question. Now, I could, right off the top of my head, I think of one case in San Diego. This lady was African, from Africa, and her father was a minister in Africa. And so the father and the mother were very much involved in the church, but there were people coming against them with voodoo curses. And so this lady was exposed to voodoo and voodoo curses as a young child. And then it continued with her as she became an adult and moved into America. And I'll tell you, Lon, I'll never forget it. I was performing the exorcism over this woman. Her body was twisting and contorting in ways that a human body can't. I cannot believe, just having this quick reflection of what I saw that night, I can't believe that the bones weren't just snapping and popping. I have never seen before or since a person's body twist and contort in those kinds of ways that I saw that night. And as she was delivered from all of this, she started projectile vomiting. And that does happen in some of these cases. It has to come out. And a lot of times they'll come out through the mouth. And other times, another case I had in San Francisco, when I was performing the exorcism, the entity came out through the top of the head of the young man. And before the entity came out, you would have had to have seen this with your own eyes to believe it, just like that woman's body contorting. But when the entity was coming out, the young man's face went into a V, and his cheeks went way out like that. So the chin came down on a point, and the cheeks went into a V like that. His whole face, shape of his face changed. And then the entity came out through the top of his head. Now, the young man didn't remember anything that was taking place, like most people. They don't remember a thing when they're under demonic possession and when the exorcism is taking place. But he did tell me this, that he felt a tremendous pressure in the top of his head. And I'll guarantee you that's when the entity was coming out. He felt that pressure in the top of his head.
I've been involved with a few of the Creole religion cases, and hoodoo, voodoo, and there's a lot of different things all over Santeria, and
Yes.
I had a case locally, actually in Littlestown. You know where Littlestown is, of a Bahamian woman who had moved from New York, and she was living in Littlestown, and her grandmother was an actual priestess. Wow. And when her grandmother died, apparently somebody had left a curse on her grandmother, so when her grandmother died, it went to her. And man,
Yeah,
I'm
so that's
telling
a
you,
family bloodline curse.
yeah, and it all centered around a bed that she had. That was her grandmother's bed. Man, we had a heck of a time in that thing, but she eventually, I don't know if, and that's a case where I really don't know exactly what happened. I don't know if the entity actually moved itself in the bed, but it did stop tormenting her. And I haven't talked to her for several years. I know she did move
Did she
back
ever
up to
get
New
rid
York.
of the bed, Lon, or
I
did
don't
they?
know. I don't know if she did or not. I thought she may have, but I talked to another person who knew her. They said they don't think she did. So I don't know. You know how that
Yeah,
goes.
that's interesting.
So many times we find attachments with certain objects, and of course, not everybody's willing to get rid of it, but it does happen. It's like I've said before. I go in the antique store. I can't handle it.
No, and this what I'm about to say might sound crazy, but it's true. I don't bring anything into my house unless I pray over it, and that goes for anything new. I have to pray and bind and rebuke and cast out anything evil or negative that may be attached to anything that I bring into my home. Scripture tells us, do not bring a cursed thing in your home lest you be cursed like it. And I do the same thing in hotel rooms, rental cars, same thing. I mean, you can never be too careful, especially nowadays, with the level of high strangeness that takes place on a daily basis somewhere around America or around the world.
Right. James West and also Vincent also, he asked, what exactly are shadow people, or have you been involved with any Hat Man phenomena?
I have.
Are they demonic, or are they something other than that? I mean, I have an opinion, but I'd like to know what you have to say.
Well, in the cases that I've been involved in, I do believe that they were demonic, but I will say this. I've read a lot of books on the subject, and it is plausible to me to consider that perhaps some of these shadow types of entities could be some type of interdimensional traveler that somehow stepped out of that dimension into ours, and very quickly. I saw with my own eyes one time this shadow entity. I couldn't make out any features, but I guess I could kind of make out legs, but it was in shadow, so there was nothing that I could identify. But I did see legs, and it was to my left, and I saw it very, very clearly. And the amazing thing, Lon, is when it saw me. So it was something that I caught out of the corner of my eye, and I looked, and then when it realized that I was looking at it, it hurried up. It picked up the pace. So when I first caught it, it was in stride. And then when I looked at it, man, it picked up the pace. It got right out of there. So to me, so whatever that was knew that I saw it. And then in knowing that I saw it, man, it got out of there real quick. So was this some type of interdimensional traveler that had the ability and capability to step out of its reality into ours, or something that also should be considered? As crazy as this might sound, I do believe that our government in the shadows very well could have harnessed this type of technology to be able to invade a space, go undetected per se until discovered like that, and then just get out of there as some type of surveillance tactic. I would not dismiss it.
Well, it's been my experience, and I don't know if this is true or not, but just what I've observed, that these shadow figures and Hat Man and all these other dark entities are some kind of course, they're non-human. They're not an actual spiritual entity. They're more malevolent. They seem to thrive on dysfunction, illness, sickness,
negativity.
I mean, and they are dangerous. And I mean, I've been involved with cases where you can literally see the results of these things being around. They can kill. I mean, if they've given the opportunity, they can kill. And they're not the easiest thing to get rid of. And just like a lot of poltergeist cases where the people themselves have got to change their lifestyle to kind of keep, the energy feeding these things away
I
and
agree,
to
Lon.
move them on. And
I agree.
I think that has a lot to do with, you try to tell people that, and they'll say, well, what can I do? You got to change things the way things are.
Correct.
This living, throwing stuff, arguing, carrying on, all, drugs, alcoholism, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It does create an environment, and it does cause chaos. Chaos is everything, basically. People talk about chaos magic. But chaos,
the food that feeds the devil.
Yeah. Evil is attracted to chaos. And, you can see it when you work a lot of these cases. I mean, invariably, when I go into a case, especially where I'm going into it physically, it's the first thing you notice. You can really tell, and you get a good idea why these things are going on.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
You have
that's just the way things
dysfunction,
are nowadays. Yeah. So, that's an interesting question. I don't think I've ever talked to you about that.
No,
the
that
Hat
was
Man.
a great question. And,
Yeah.
I look at it like this too, Lon. All life operates on frequency and vibration. So if our frequency and vibration is on high, life is good, life is positive, we're moving forward. But if our frequency and vibration is on low, boy, look out. These types of things are going to happen, because you're right. It feeds on that kind of stuff. And so it's very important for people to understand that and realize that. So if you're out there and you do have this kind of thing going on, like Lon said, it is imperative that you make some changes to raise your frequency and vibration. And that way there won't be anything for these entities to feed on.
Absolutely. I got another one from Android Purity. I want to know, Bill, if you can elaborate on why or why not you conclude that cryptids could be the Nephilim from the Bible.
I believe they are.
again,
especially when it comes to the Bigfoot, Sasquatch creatures, I strongly feel, and Lon knows this, Lon is a regular guest on my show. We discuss stuff like this all the time. I firmly believe that when the B'nai Elohim, the sons of God, were cast out of heaven, they came down, they took human women, they had sexual relations with them, produced a hybrid offspring of giants called the Nephilim. The Nephilim went into the forest and the fields and had unnatural sex acts with apes, bears, dogs, wolves, you name it. And these, in my opinion, are the Bigfoot Sasquatch creatures. They are the offspring of the offspring, and they're every bit as much supernatural as they are a flesh and blood type of being.
Well, and my thought on this is, for the most part, I think there is not only an interdimensional, but possibly an alien connection to a lot of this and a lot of other stuff too.
It's all connected.
Yeah. We talk about on your show a lot about the connections in the paranormal, the supernatural. And, many of the cases that we talk about and many of the entities we talk about, there always seems to be eventually a single denominator that is something that is unexplained, and we really don't know where it's coming from. But I'm telling you, it seems to all come from one thing, and that is possibly something not of this earth, or possibly something of this earth that we just don't understand.
I completely agree. And again, just thinking about the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and even the Mothman type of sightings, which I've had one encounter there as well. You at times, and Lon, I know you've gotten many reports on this, at times of having these types of experiences and sightings, there might be balls of light that are associated with that, or even UFOs in the sky. So again, you have this type of phenomena that is interconnected. So if you're having all of this going on, you're saying, obviously there is some connection to this. And even in my own case, where we were having these demonic attacks in the house for all those years, there was a UFO aspect to it. There were alien-looking creatures that were photographed in the house. And there were also reports back then, they called it the Gully Man, of a Bigfoot type of creature down in that ravine that they called the Gully Man.
Mm. Now, you had sent me a photograph tonight of I don't know if it was from a poster or something, Purge. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, boy, Lon, I'm excited about that. And Kev Baker designed that poster, and I love it, and I thank him for it. This is something that God, several nights ago, it was one night last week, it was just random. I was in the shower, and all of a sudden this message and this whole thing popped into my head. And this is something that I'm going to start embarking on soon. I'm going to make these appearances all over the country where people want to host one of these. And it could be a church. If it's a church, fine, I'll go there. If it's someone that wants to host one of these things in their town or city, we'll do it. This is going to be a great opportunity for people to come and let it all go. So we'll start this Purge event off by me talking about my life and the things that I had endured and how bad it was and how I didn't even want to live for the longest time, and then how God transformed my life. And it was the transformation took place through a blessing, a cleansing, a purging of all of those horrible things that I was holding on to for so long. We cannot hold on to these things and think that we're okay and we're going to be able to move forward. We just can't. And whether that goes to someone like me that had all those terrible types of experiences and tragedies, or someone that suffered child molestation or rapes or violent crime, or even committed a violent crime or did something to somebody, that you can't hold on to these things. They have to be purged. And that's what this event is all about, Lon, is the people will come. I'll start it out by giving my story, and then I will perform, by the power of God working through me, a mass deliverance, blessing, cleansing, purging for these people so they can let it all go and then leave that venue feeling transformed, feeling like it has all been taken off of them, and then they can move forward in mind, body, and spirit. And again, it's the greatest thing to be set free from these types of things, and then you can move on and have a good and productive life and never look back. And the only time that you would look back or reflect would be if you're helping somebody else.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Are you going to videotape it? I mean, videotape it. Are you going to record it and produce it?
Yes. And I want you to be a part of one of the, because I'm going to do one in New York. I think we're going to set it up for next month, but then I want to do one in the Maryland area. Mm-hmm. And I want you to be a part of that event. I'm going to get Derek Stroman he'll document it. Oh, okay. He'll videotape everything. So we'll have it all documented. But if you're in the area, and for everybody that's listening in right now, if you're in the area, I will soon put this together. We've got to find a venue first, and whether that will be some type of event hall, and most likely it will be something like that. Then I'll let you know. We'll set a date, we'll set a time, and then all you have to do is show up. And I can guarantee you this, you out there, if you're having these types of problems, if you really want to be free from it, you don't have to take my word for anything, but if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and you want to be free from it, show up and let's let God be God and take this from you. You know, when I was a young man, as I was going into my adult years, I'd had so much garbage from being regularly physically attacked for many, many years. And then the tragic loss of my parents and grandparents and just you name it, family members. I didn't care to live. I grew up, I quit school in the 8th grade, lied about my age, went to work for a construction company, grew up on the streets, drank, did drugs, was violent. And then one day I had an epiphany in my life that I decided to choose life. And I decided that I wanted to have some type of good life. And I decided to make God first in my life. And then I asked him to take the urge to drink and use drugs from me. And may God strike me dead if I'm lying. I never had an urge to drink or use drugs again because I was sincere. I didn't want that to be in my life anymore. And so God really, I never went to an AA, NA, none of that. God just took it from me. And that was part of the transformation in my life. So I'm happy to tell you that my life is 50 times more blessed than it's ever been cursed. And I can never thank God and praise God enough for it. So I know what it's like to have that kind of purging. And so I urge you out there, please just pay attention to my website, or you can follow Lon. Lon is going to be on my show on Sunday. We're going to talk more about this. And once I have a date set for the Maryland area, I'm inviting all of you to attend. And it will be the greatest decision you ever made to come in there and really want to be rid of whatever it is that is troubling you.
Yeah. Why don't you tell the folks about Warrior Mode?
Yeah, and that's my show every Sunday, which Lon Strickler is a major part of. He and Stan Gordon are the two regular guests that come on all the time. And every Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And it's Kev Baker and Travis Short and Derek Stroman and myself. And we cover a variety of topics. And it's always great when Lon's with us. And man, we really dig into the latest of what's going on in the world of the supernatural when you come on there, Lon.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to cover. I mean, it seems like every time I do it on a monthly basis, but it seems like something pops up that we have a lot to talk about.
Always.
Because I've had Kev Baker on my show, and of course I've had Travis on as well. I might have to get Derek on another time as well. But that's right. I will be on there this Sunday at 7:00 p.m. Eastern. So
absolutely, those guys love you, and people always, when you're on there, the viewers, they love you as well. So there's always great positive feedback. So it is our absolute pleasure to always have you on the show.
Well, Bill, I want to thank you for coming on tonight, and I hope the book continues to do well.
And congratulations on your book too, in the reissue of that book.
Yeah, I've got another publisher, so we're kind of spicing everything up a bit. New covers, a few new things inside the books themselves. So we're reissuing the books, and I'm actually working on another one. So hopefully I can get that done within the year. I'm kind of being pressed to do that, so I guess I will get it done. You know, it's funny. Last year, 2020, everybody's sitting at home, and I didn't even think about working on a book. I guess so much other stuff was going on, I wasn't even thinking about that. But I'm working on it now.
You'll get it. There's no doubt about it. And I'm going to write a little companion book called Purge that will be a handbook for people. So when they attend these events, I may even just give them out to people just so they have it as a little book that goes along with this presentation.
Excellent. Okay. Well, Bill, you take care, and I'll talk to you Sunday, and you have a good weekend. So, folks, let me get it up here. I'm so glad Bill came on tonight. We know we had to cancel the last show because of I had some surgery done. He had some surgery done the same time, and I wasn't feeling up to it. So we just kind of both decided to do it later. So we will be on Sunday night on Warrior Mode. You can go to Bill, just put Bill Bean into the YouTube, and it'll come up there for the show. So, if you have any unexplained encounters or sighting, feel free to contact me through Phantoms of Monsters blog site. I want to again thank Bill Bean for joining me this evening. And thanks to each and all of you for watching and chatting. If you made a super chat donation, it's truly appreciated. Your support is what makes all this possible. Please like, subscribe, and share. Now, next week, I have 14 Friday, and we've got Butch Witkowski and Amy Booth joining us. So we're going to be talking about a lot of things that we've been involved with the group, our investigative group, Phantoms of Monsters 14 Research. So that should be an interesting show. So until next week, stay healthy, have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Good night.